Aloha, welcome back to PTC'25. I'm here with Chris Kenny, founder and managing director of Global Compute Infrastructure. Chris, thank you very much for joining us. How are you finding PTC this year?
Great, by the way, thanks so much for having me. Finding it great as usual. I've been to, I don't even know how many of these, 10 to 12 by now.
Oh, really?
The attendance this year is unbelievable. You know, since we came out of COVID lockdown, it's just been ramping and ramping and ramping.
Yeah.
So it's great, quite busy. A lot of people here as usual, but that's going great.
Yeah, you can really feel the buzz, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as I said, thank you very much for joining us. We just very recently found out that you guys have got a new project in Japan. So what can you tell us about that?
So Global Compute Infrastructure is a small investment platform comprised of myself and 7 partners. Most of us are ex-Digital Realty executives.
Yep.
That continue to invest in the data center sector globally with various capital partners. This particular announcement we made yesterday is an initiative in Fukuoka Prefecture, southern Japan, in joint venture with Asia Pacific Land, APL. Mm-hmm. And the thrust of it is that we believe, and our partner APL believes, that the Japanese market is asking for a non-Tokyo, non-Osaka offering. As it so happens, working with APL, we've secured several land sites in Kirikyushu, which is in the northern part of the prefecture, where we have, for the first site, committed 120 megawatts of power set to be delivered in 2027. Yep. Followed by a second site with 250 megawatts of committed power as well, and then several other sites under control that can ramp us up to 650 megawatts. The thesis is, again, non-Tokyo, non-Osaka offering, power rates that are well below Tokyo and below Osaka, and access to good subsea cable routes as well as the terrestrial routes within Japan. Yeah. So it's a Japanese offering as well as an Asian regional offering.
Yeah, the subsea routes there tend to be more Asia Pacific, right? Like the cross-Pacific ones, more like landing further north in Japan. Right?
That's exactly right. It's a regional North Asia, Pan Asia type of connectivity hub, and so, like I say, not only can we service the Japanese market, but as markets become more difficult to execute in, like a Singapore or a Hong Kong, for that matter, we could potentially be an alternative for loads in compute and AI even.
How do you think that kind of like different connectivity landscape compared to Japan to Tokyo or Osaka? How do you think that kind of changes the demand that you're expecting to see in that part of Japan?
Again, I think we're going to position ourselves as not only an offering that can work to satisfy Japanese-based demand, but that regional play as well. Again, having access to those subsea routes right across from Busan and then throughout Northern Asia, I think gives us an opportunity to kind of satisfy both markets. Yeah.
And you mentioned the lower electricity prices. I believe the particular region is also one of the areas of Japan that has the highest percentage of renewable energy on its grid as well.
That's correct.
So how important was that for you in kind of like deciding on where to go?
It's very important. As I'm sure you know, and many people in this space know, sustainability and carbon-free power sourcing is of critical importance. The appetite for power has exploded clearly with AI around the world. But if you can identify a situation where you can provide reasonably relatively low cost power, power that's ready, by the way, where we're not in line in Tokyo or Osaka, we don't have power already, and it's 2/3 sustainable or carbon free, we think that's a very compelling situation.
Definitely, 100%. What can you tell us about like how this joint venture is going to work in terms of like obviously over the development phase and then once the data centers are live, like what role are you going to play? What role are Asia Land partners?
Asia Pacific
Land, going to play?
So again, as a small investment team, our sweet spot for investing around the world is to find good blue chip institutional quality local partners. And in a market like Japan, that's even more important because of the unique characteristics of executing in Japan. Just as an aside, back in my digital realty days, I, with our team in Singapore, led the Mitsubishi Corporation joint venture with digital realty. So we've got in Asia Pacific land a 30-year track record of developing, asset managing, and continued commercial activity in the real estate space, not in the data center space. But they know how to build, significant projects throughout Japan, including down in Fukuoka. And we bring the data center expertise, customer relationships, the the industry visibility, the industry awareness to that equation. So as we grow that, we can contribute that and cover a lot of different needs on the data center side. But as we ramp up, what the plan would be to bring in and staff the actual platform with professionals, and begin to create a true Southern Japan and maybe beyond platform over time.
And I think, like you mentioned in your kind of like release out to the press on this, about trying to turn it into like a new data center hub for Japan, which I guess requires more than just like a lone investor. You need a whole industry kind of ecosystem to develop there. So is that something you're seeing already, or is it something that you think will like come later and you guys are kind of like first in?
It's a good question. We think, based on our team's diligence, that it's starting to get customer attention. That specific area. We also think it checks a lot of the other boxes as we've discussed. And so from that standpoint, again, we as investment professionals in this space feel like it's pretty ripe for some stoking, if you will, for some professionalized initiative around it. And so we think that will start to turn into its own ecosystem. I've been in this space for 24 years. All the way back to the predecessor private equity funded Digital Realty Trust, and we've seen it time and time again repeat itself around the world as new markets emerge, get traction, and then begin to mature. How that ecosystem tends to develop around it.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I think we mentioned this is the first kind of market in Asia Pacific region that you guys have moved into and kind of invested in. Are there any others on the radar right now?
In Asia Pacific, there are, but they're quite a bit earlier stages. And Asia Pacific, again, having done a lot here in my prior incarnation at Digital Realty, and just understanding the region, as everyone watching this will, such a vast, complex region in terms of jurisdictions and cultures and languages and distance, frankly. The obvious markets of a Singapore and a Hong Kong, those have their constraints and their complexity now. So what markets might step into that complexity within ASEAN, maybe, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines is a market that shows promise, but again, very, very early stages. So from our standpoint, as we approach this space, we're going to focus more on those types of situations where we can step into an initiative that doesn't already have a lot of the data center infrastructure or capital yet in abundance, right? That's where I think we can add value.
Is that why I was kind of expecting you to mention Malaysia when you were going through your ASEAN markets there? So is that why you omitted them and went for the kind of like, I guess like kind of tier twos, if you want to call it that?
Well, that's a fair characterization of those, because they are not quite tier 2 locations like a Johor or even a Batam. The other side of Singapore. We like those two places, by the way, Johor and Batam. So those certainly are markets that we track and keep track of as well.
Okay, cool, that makes sense. And let's just quickly talk a little bit more about kind of outside of Asia Pacific. What else have you guys, what's keeping you busy elsewhere around the world?
So with our first capital partner, which was Goldman Sachs Asset Management, we made a couple of investments. One, we bought the leading incumbent data center provider in Warsaw, Poland, that services the Polish market. And when we bought them just over 4 years ago, they were a small, local, but a very well run, retail colo B2B with some services and a fiber company that we thought we could acquire, professionalize the existing business, grow the existing business, and then expand them into more of a full service space power connectivity play. So we've acquired a land site and we're delivering the first of 3 buildings on that new 60 megawatt campus there as we continue to try and transform that type of an asset. We also have a powered land portfolio in Bogota, Colombia, another early stage market, much earlier stage than a Warsaw, but similar characteristics where we identify promising characteristics around supply demand over time, and there's no incumbent to buy there, so the way to enter that market and potentially take advantage of that opportunity over time is to assemble a powered land portfolio.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's just jump back to Poland quickly. We're hearing a lot, I think people are very excited about the Polish market as like kind of this gateway between Western and Eastern Europe just due to its location. How are you guys thinking about that, and kind of when you're putting together your plan for Poland, what do you have to do to kind of like realize that potential?
So you hit the nail right on the head. For us, the real value creation in this space, just taking a step back, is creating that platform. And we feel strongly that the Warsaw-based, Poland-focused platform, it's a company called Atman. So the Atman platform, executive team, and operations team could potentially be leveraged to expand beyond the Polish market into broader CEE. And then you start to create more of a CEE focused platform, which doesn't really exist with an institutional quality management team, an institutional quality offering and approach to the market.
Right.
And so you're dead on there in terms of kind of a longer term vision for that platform. Right now our high focus is executing on our first campus development, new campus development in Warsaw, and another land site in Warsaw, but over time very much want to explore expanding that throughout CEE.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you very much for chatting with us.
Okay.
Thank you to everyone for watching at home. And remember to check out techcapital.com where you can get more news, views, and industry insights on all things digital infrastructure.